welcome. This is Celeste, aka Joanna. I have to kind of put on those two names because I'm still in transition until I get all my paperwork and then I can have it all changed over. My hair is doing cray. Yes, it was curled and then it just went into doing its own thing mode. So hi everybody, hi, how's everybody doing? We're so happy to be with you. So we're going to do a little bit about clairs, and then I had a download this morning. And we're going to be talking about this quite a bit because it's the vibration and the energy that we need to, there we go, that's a little bit better, it's a little bit straighter. Yay. It's the energy that we need to be in to open up to the greater aspects of who we are at the Divine Sacred Heart. So the more open and allowing that we are, we're allowing Source Creator to come in and help churn and alchemize any energy that we are facing that is before us. So it's really a powerful and important part of alchemy. It's an important part of healing. Hi, sweetheart. We're going to go a little bit out there, but we're going to talk about this a lot because here's some things that they're throwing at me. The topic of today is vulnerability and success through being vulnerable and living in that vulnerable state. And that doesn't mean we want to shift the perspective and we want to bring everything to balance, because being vulnerable doesn't mean that you're giving up your boundaries. It doesn't mean that you're giving up, not having your outcome as a success as well. Because sometimes when people say we're going to be vulnerable, it lets the guard down because there's been eons and thousands of years in which we've had in lower consciousness. We want to make this very clear, because how we have seen and lived and created beliefs and perspectives is because of the consciousness level that we sat at, and because of the beliefs of church and state where we sat at. So our intention today is to rewrite the codes and the essences held within the imprints of our social collective, because everything that we feel and everything that we sense at a collective level on where things are at in our consciousness, where things are at with our belief systems, is really about the imprints of the consciousness level of where the collective in general is sitting. But we want to open that up. And there's very key points here and why we're doing this. And just have it open and have the intention today to be open in vulnerability so that you can have Source Creator and the omnipresent, the substrates, the omni-love that goes within all that is life, within all that is dimensional threading. And just to open it up, because we want to have far-reaching energy, right? We want to have that far-reaching energy. But the only way for us to do that is if we open in pure vulnerability that we don't know. And that's okay not to know. It's okay not to have that direct 100%, 150 bajillion% outcome on what that's going to be. And we want that safety because we've come from 3 to 5,000 years. I'm just speaking this, what I'm speaking of is how and why and what the psyche wants to expect and wants to anticipate. And sometimes we put ourselves in boxes and we put ourselves in things that cannot be unwrapped, because where we're going in 5D co-creation is not going to be unwrapped to have it to be that full expectation of what your ego, your mind, the lower consciousness wants it to be. So you're wanting those safeguards. You're wanting that, you're not going to take this step until, you're not going to do that until, you want to be verified, you want to be validated between all of these things that want to fit in the boxes for you to have your perfect outcome or for you to take that next chance or choice. But we want to step out of that because we want to live in the full vulnerability and being open while still, thank you, Holy Spirit, while still allowing for the ability for Spirit to come in and move in and out of the substrate so that you're opening into the unconditional trust, the radical trust that you are now living as a God being. And you're not going to have all your boxes ticked and checked for you to have that next statement, that next step on your journey and your path, because we don't want to live like that. We don't want to live, well, if all the boxes are checked, then I'm going to take a step. Because then you're holding back on truly what can be learned in just taking the step and trusting that in every moment you're not going to know. We're going to places, we're going to be in energies, we're going to be in the essence of Source that we've never been before. So there's no way that we can absolutely and utterly know every step of the way. We can't, and we won't. That's not part of the journey. Part of the journey is to surrender those dysfunctional, wounded parts of us, those psyche woundings, that have wanted us to be accepted, that wanted us to be belonging, or wanted us to be accepted unconditionally through parents and through situations and environments where they were absolutely wounded and they couldn't give that to us. They couldn't emulate that to us. They couldn't reflect that to us. And so the wounded part of our our self psyche, the ones that, our psyche personality self was looking so much to belong. It was looking so much to be right. It was looking so much to be rewarded because we were right. We wanted to be accepted in that expression of who we were. But the wounded part of the psyche and that individuated self was being reflected from a society that had many different religious beliefs, and they were all, many of them were, again, lower consciousness, because it didn't take into consideration that God was all things, God was all beings, God was women too. God was a higher consciousness. God was in flowers. The consciousness of God is in trees and in oceans and all of these things that were not taught in the earliest of days. The consciousness of source is beyond what we can understand. It's beyond the impossible. It's in the DNA encoding that is the impossible mapping of who we are from all creations, from all planets, from all forms. Therefore, there's then, how could we ever know where we're going to step next? Therefore, how could we ever have a checkbox of saying, I'm not going to go forward unless this, this, and this, and this, and this are met? Because you're asking for the impossible on old paradigms that are not in 5D. So we're going to go places and it's going to be new. The territory we're moving in is new. So let's move and navigate through these energies. But just in the moment of now, have an unconditional trust that you're going to open up into understandings of higher consciousness, because we're going to be stepping beyond everything that is foundationally lower consciousness in the matrix, and we want to up-level the matrix to a higher consciousness matrix, in which systems and peoples and gatherings and organizations of sects of energies that we've created throughout all time can be updated and uploaded into new high vibrational imprints, so that everybody can kind of stay where they're at, and then in their time of giving and in their time of opening, it's up to source to do all that pulling out of where that pulling out needs to be. Because it's kind of like a beehive, and if there's lower vibrational energies that need to come out of one part of church and state, it's going to come out. And this is why we're going to see not the entire church and state coming down all at once, because it would be too detrimental for us, but there's going to be pockets of church and state that will be coming undone, because it's easier for us to handle and remake and rewrite. So again, it's just all the benevolence of us, right? And source knows the benevolence of us. So let's talk about, and so just open up your divine sacred heart and just do some clearing. We just want to do some clearing. Take a deep breath. Hello, everybody online, and we thank you for coming forward in this beautiful gathering today. This is a co-creative experience, and the heavenly angels and the systems of light, all of your service guides, from healing to intelligence to the master being that you're becoming, the master godly essence, the master godly representation that you are being from your representation of the heavens, your unique hybridization, your unique celestial experience, your unique alien experience, your unique human experience, and you're culminating all that has ever been in your lifetimes to a higher version of now, so that we can bring forward all that we have ever been and all that we will ever be to an open state of understanding that in the potential and in the energy and in the vibration of just letting go and surrendering, we can allow the vulnerability of the highest potential to allow itself to rewrite itself with our intentions of being vulnerable. We're not going to know. We're going to work through it together as a collective team, that we each have expertise, that we each have unique qualities, we each have unique offerings, we each have unique, genuine, authentic beingness. And it's up to everybody to offer that forward. And again, if you're not offering your most authentic experience forward, you're going to be meeting those reflections and those fractals that are also not in genuine authenticity. So then you can gauge that and discern that at that time. Because we know that obviously being godly is everybody on the planet right now, wherever they sit, is a godly state. Now, however they choose to reflect within themselves and love themselves and radically accept themselves, then it will determine on their next state of cycle of consciousness that they move into. So again, we're constantly churning into new versions of consciousness, into new versions of godliness. But what we want to understand is that in the essence of who we are as multi-vibrational, multi-dimensional light beings of Metatronic light, we are the dodecahedron. You want to take a deep breath of clearing. You want to go the inhale, call all your energies of godliness in. See yourself in a visualization with your third eye and your multidimensional fields, your causal, your emotional, your mental, your physical. Thank you, Holy Spirit. We're just doing some clearing there. And this is again down in the lower chakras. It's where most of the wounding occurs. You want to allow any projections and any releases that need to be done, and you want to give yourself the permission to be in 100% truth and be vulnerable no matter what. And if that vulnerability means that you're going to lose some people along the way, then so be it, because they're not meant to be on your ride anyways. You cannot force people to stay on your path, and you cannot make people go with you, and you cannot make people be a part of your story that don't want to be a part of your story. Everything is in free will. And you cannot force cycles to stay. You cannot force cycles to not evolve. You cannot stop ascension. You cannot stop the correct collective evolution. The evolution of natural order will continue because omnipresent light is wanting and will just churn every aspect of the elementals, every aspect of the air and space, every aspect of nature. Everything must evolve. And so it can never be stopped, and it can never not be put in a little bottle and have the cap put on to have it never change. We have to evolve, and we are moving forward, but we're never going to know the answers at this point in stage, because we're becoming new aspects of light. We've never been here before. We're coming into new aspects of higher resonance, church and state, because we've never been here before. We're okay, those that so desire, to move forward in an open understanding that there is always grander aspects of Source Creator, God. And it can be explained and expressed and experienced in an infinite number of ways, because that's Source Creator. There are the Pleiades, there are the Orions, there are the Andromedans, there are the Cassiopeans, there are the Unicornians. There's all of these beings and all of these creatures and creations and insectoids and all of these wonderful, beautiful, experiential beings that is God Creator, that's Source Creator. And within those subsets of genuses, the genus of the category, there's also that structure of the analogs of new life. There's always going to be the branching out and the branching down, and that is evolution. We're moving up into new cycles of experience. We're moving up into new cycles of never been before. Therefore, then we must challenge our belief systems and how we have done things and how and why we have done things is because of the ego with the harmonization of the new psyche soul. We want to call psyche soul together and harmonized, because as you call in those psyche fragmented experiences that were brought and born under dysfunction, they were brought and born and birthed and bred under misalignment and discrimination and separation and outcasting and ostracization and judgment and separation and all of those things that make us look at ourselves in very harsh judgmental ways. And why? When we go about life in these very profound steps and processes to take us into that new arena and energy where that field is open to infinite possibilities, whether it's health, arts and entertainment, whether it's education and inventiveness, whether it's intelligence and wisdoms, philosophies, it doesn't matter, because we're going to have to come up with a whole bunch of beautiful arenas of inventiveness and inventions that we're going to propel us forward in higher dimensional, higher consciousness ways. But we want to have it done from the heart space. We want to have it done from the soul space. So the soul must be open to evolve. The soul is, again, all of your psyche experiences, and there's going to be 51% of those soul experiences that are going to be in fragments. But the grander part of you that is still connected with Source, it's still connected with your higher self, still connected with all your celestial teams and guides, still connected with Metatron, still connected with all of your ancestors that are on the other side of spirit, that are helping you modify who you are, helping enhance your body, helping enhance the matter part of you, helping enhance the physical part of you, and they're helping give you little synchronicities and spiritual energy and emotional energy and all of the things that make us up as a unified collective. But now the soul aspect of us is looking to reunify and keep harmonizing the grander soul psyche part of us into the fragmented part. So anytime these fragments come up to be harmonized in, we're going to take a look at it. And we're going to say, okay, let's work with this. This is beyond where we've been before. We're not going to know the answers. We're not going to have check boxes anymore, except for just remaining in the sacred Trinity. And if your heart aligned, then step forward into these new arenas, because you can only learn. Trust that. That's a given. You can only learn. You can only be wider. You can only be far-reaching, and you can only learn. And it's always easy for you to come back and navigate back to your heart center and say, did that feel right for me? And then you can go on a recorrection. You can go on a realterization. You can alter your course and pivot. But you're giving yourself that chance to say, I don't need the boxes anymore. We don't need to define autism in this way anymore. We don't need to define dark occult in this way anymore. We can start defining things in ways that will serve all of us, in which that we can radically accept all that has ever occurred and all that has ever happened. Our need for church and state has been there, and how can we dynamically reorganize and restructure the beliefs and perspectives so that we can be open and vulnerable with each other, no matter what side of the fence you sit on, so that we don't have to have the boxes, with the exception that we are all one, that we will always change and evolve, and that we can somehow find compromise and comparison so that each of us comes out with a win-win to some point and to some degree, so that we are not going to be taken advantage of, we're not going to be used and abused or trafficked or sold or bid against, that there is always a winning outcome when we are open and vulnerable enough to allow Source Creator to come in and help doing the work with us. So these are going to be profound, 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 profound experiences that high vibrational leadership, through the Masters, thank you, Holy Spirit, thank you, Holy Spirit, thank you, Holy Spirit, through the Divine Holy Masters and the Lord Sananda and the Christ consciousness that I work with on the other sides and the realms. We're just tuning in with the Galactic Federations on the mothership, thank you. And all of the beautiful classes that we teach that are on the motherships, that are on the starships and the light ships that we go to in our dream time, in our sleep time, in our higher consciousness time, to learn and to give ourselves a relaxing so that we don't have to put so much pressure on our daily selves when we're kind of open and awake during our everyday life. And we're going to moving into these new areas and arenas of being and feeling comfortable with who we are stretching ourselves into, which is unconditionally loving beings, and having to work and navigate around these beautiful older ways, but how can we refine and really start piercing in new light and piercing in new vulnerability and piercing in new flexibility and adaptability so that we can become with a greater, wider a range of potential. Because it's not until we're fully open, when we are fully open in this heart space, then Source can come in and Source can bring the highest level of potential outcome for us. Because Source will never bring a potential that is more negative. Source, when we are open and vulnerable with Source, to know that Source is living through all of us. Source is the creator of all evolution. Source is the creator of all science and light. Source is the Metatronic light. So it doesn't matter where someone sits in their consciousness, whether a lower consciousness or a higher consciousness, whatever this situation is of a dichotomy or a dissension or a negativity or a negative interaction that you might be anticipating, just neutralize that meeting, neutralize that agenda, and just say, if I open up in full vulnerability to the highest and the greatest good, then I'm going to allow Source the highest potential for my guides and my higher self to know that every timeline, every thread, every reality, every realm, every dimension, every universe that I exist upon, I'm going to be getting the highest vibrational light. And now they're wanting me to say, and those of you that are into, that have been with us for quite a while, when you offer yourself the highest vibrational light possible and you're open in potential where you're not going to drive and you're not going to dictate outcome, that's control and fear. That's a fear-based mentality. So you never want to control income. You never want to go out. You never want to go in saying, I'm going to win this. I'm going to win this outcome. Because if you're going to say that, then you're not giving that other person their balanced respect and their balanced validity of being who they are. Like, let them surprise you. Let them surprise you that if you open up into your vulnerability, you're going to see something miraculous in them and you're going to give them their highest potential instead of shutting it down saying there is only one outcome and it's mine. So don't ever go into situations like that when you're in business meetings. Don't go into situations like that when you're in co-creative meetings. Go in with an open heart to say, for the highest and for the greatest good of all. Because you want all parties to be leveling up with you. You don't want to come out and say, I'm going to win, I'm going to win, I'm going to win. Because sometimes the thing that you might need to learn most is in that loss. And we all know that. So allow these constructive experiences of being Source Creator wherever you're at, being Source Creator in the dynamic vibrational consciousness level of where you're at, and allow all parties to say, for the greatest and for the greater good, whatever will come out of this experience will be what is needed at that time. So have greater faith and trust. Have greater faith and trust because, again, we're going to go back to this. When you open in pure vulnerability, you're giving Source Creator the highest potential to come in and put the highest codes on everybody involved in that situation. You want the highest best for everybody. Why? Because they're just aspects of you, just in different forms. So why not wish them the best? Again, you're releasing competition. You're releasing win over others. You're releasing envy and jealousy and all those things that make us lose. Because that's separation, it's fear. When you open into highest vulnerability, you're not always going to want to walk away with a win because you might need to learn something from that coming away by actually being forgiving and giving that other person a false win, if you will. It's not really a true win as far as justice might be, or the legal terms might be, or the legal wording might be, or the amount of money that you pay, but it might be a win for you because you're just saying that really wasn't important to me and I can let that go and let them have that win. And we've all been in situations like that. Those of us that are business people and those of us that are, that have had businesses for self, and we've been in, we've even been in, government and banking. There are times, and many times in banking, as a leader and as a customer service leader and as a team sales agent, there's many times where you make those business decisions based on the fact of loyalty and having those clients return to you. So there might be some times where you're going to go through those losses because it makes greater sense to have that loyal client return to you in other ways of banking. It might be through RSPs, it might be through investments, it might be through a lending product. But you want to have that client understand that, no, we're a full package experience. And yes, we're going to let this go on this experience because we think it's far more important for you. You've got your retirement coming up. So let's start building on that. So again, you always have to make those business decisions, and you're never going to have the check boxes fully meet your requirements when we're moving into territory and we're moving into omnipresent substrates that we've never been before. Our bodies are constantly being moved and altered every day in light. Our minds and our brains, how our brain used to function in 3D, will not be how our brain functions in 5D. How we become more inventive and how we align with our highest creation, our inspiration in the pineal, is going to be more and more and more and more from here on out, higher consciousness, 5D, co-create, and we're going to have to align with our multidimensional bodies to come up with these highly inventive and 5D quantum physics, 5D philosophies, 5D's entering galactic space, and we're going to have to harmonize and merge the bridge building for our higher consciousness teams and our galactic communities. So we're going to have to be really vulnerable. We all know, all those of us that have been with me for quite some time and my radio show, we all know that in our communication with our spirit guides and our Pleiadians or our Sirians or our Arcturians, we know that in all of our communications, they're unconditionally loving, and sometimes they're so unconditionally loving we just break down and cry because they love us so much and they do so much for us in spirit. We just have a natural trust because we've been on this path, some of us for like 17 years, and we've known that as we're becoming more awakened, as we're becoming more vulnerable in being who we are authentically and genuinely, knowing that we can make the odd slip up every now, and we're just being awkward and geeky sometimes. It's part of the bliss about being who we are as, fallible beings. And we're learning through the shadow, and we're learning through all of these darker spaces that we've been in, and how to navigate it with grace and how to navigate it with growth and dependability on each other. We're not going to leave each other hanging because it's just going to be left for you in the karma, because the karma will always come around, right? But we're entering into new consciousness space. We're entering into new dynamics of space in which we're going to be working with various energies and various levels of intellect and various levels of light quantum coding, because the omnipresent is changing every day. The fields of God are sending back to us higher consciousness codes. The sheaths of our overself, the sheaths of our higher light body, are also offering codes on the omnipresent of all that we are in the aura and in our vibrational field. So just know that as well. So everything is changing multidimensionally, even though your body, your physical body might look the same, but who you are as a multidimensional being is changing every day. The dimensional patterns are changing, church and state are changing, your DNA is changing, the cycle of ascension is changing. The omnipresent, on how the substrates of the omnipresent field, the God field, is changing, because as one person awakens, it changes the all. Then their body goes through a change. They're getting more light. They're oscillating in more light. The omnipresent fields are getting more light. You go and have a beautiful sleep, and you're looking and you're researching on different things about enlightenment. You're loving yourself more. You're eating better food. You're forcing yourself to be around higher vibrational people so that you can learn new things and you can look into new things and feel like you're being inspired in different ways. You're being loved more by yourself and by your teams and by others. And all of these things affect the omnipresent that you sit within, which means all aspects of you are being upgraded and updated. This is evolution, and it happens at a quantum level that we don't even understand. You might look the same in the mirror, but everything about you is changing. Everything about you within the omnipresent, the micro macro, the universe is changing, the older fields are being pulled out, and more light is being put in within the substrates. This means everything that's referring back to you and returning back to you and reflecting back to you is a higher substrate. Those codes offer 5D codes, 5D diventiveness. It offers those things that we're going to need answers to resolve some of these human issues that we've created for ourselves in the lower vibrational context of separation, discrimination, and judgment. So we're going to have to resolve, and we are the ones that have been brought forward as the highest creator gods to resolve what we have done over 5,000 years of discrimination and separation. So we are the elite of the godlies in our experience of human co-creation, spiritualness co-creation. We're the ones that were chosen. Our ancestors chose us to come forward and challenge all of these things that were at the most lowest, darkest separative, to come forward and say, how can we make this new? How can we build new bridges through our vulnerability for each other? We've never been here before. We're not going to have the perfect checkbox to say, I can only go forward on my path if my checkboxes come out. It's not going to be that way. You cannot demand ascension in that way. You cannot demand that of a soulmate in that way. And well, if you do, you can. So if you do, you're going to be let down, and you're going to be on your own, because that soulmates aren't going to wait around for the boxes to be perfect for you to take a chance on just being loving and having them give you love unconditionally. So again, how much of those boxes is ego? How much of those boxes is the wounded beliefs? How much is the boxes of not being loved and accepted? How much of the boxes are being ostracized or abandoned? So take away the boxes. Take away the check boxes as much as possible in your movement forward on this ascension journey. Because you're not allowing for source to come in and honor and gift you with, oh my gosh, look what we can create. Just with us being vulnerable with each other, with us to open up within each other to say, I can offer my highest vibrational energy here, here, and here, and this is where I need time for me. This is where I need time to go on my retreat. This is where I need time to do my renegotiation with me in spirit. I need that time with me in spirit. Let's negotiate here, here, and here. So there's lots of things that you can do with each other, that you can start bringing back vulnerability to start churning the new fields that we're going to be cultivating in this new garden. Because again, we're wanting to think of church and state a little bit differently now as open pockets of energy that we can start infusing, that the omnipresent will start infusing to open up and get more far-reaching potential of changing and altering and also alchemizing to be higher levels of responsibility to return back to the collective. Because as church and state opens to be more responsible, as church and state opens to be more loving and forgiving, as church and state opens to be more aligned with Source Creator, then all is going to be churning and accepting itself within itself, having the highest vulnerability for the highest outcome of all involved. They're not going to be taken over by negative parties of greed and gluttony and abuse and corruption. And that's gone. Those are the old matrices. There are still structures within the matrices that are opening up for us to go in and start infusing Metatronic Christic light. It has nothing to do with religion. These are these aspects of what is the structures now, and they are opening up for us to infuse Christic light, to infuse who we are as this new inventiveness of divine godly humans. Each of us has unique divine DNA. Each of us has unique divine DNA mapping. And no matter where you are, what your excitements are, remember, you're going to be moving in arenas of your highest excitement, because that is your soul's gift. And your soul's gift will offer its highest potential, will offer its highest vulnerability, will offer its highest alignment of gifts, skills, and talents when you're operating within the highest excitement of who you are. That's the sacred child. So your sacred child will always return you back. And why we do ascension path work is that you always remember what is your highest level of excitement for expression. Is it painting? Is it singing? Is it nature walks? Is it, speaking up for the oceans? Is it speaking up for cetaceans? Is it looking out for animals? What is your highest level of experience and expression for you to assist with your collective so that it's heavenly aligned, that it is for your collective, and you do have Gaia operating within your soul's blueprint. And then everything is just going to be natural because you understand it's a very simple alignment. There's no more check boxes needed. So be as open as possible and release yourself from having to have everything so fixed that you're never ever going to match those boxes. And there's not going to be too many soulmates that will say, okay, well, let me match your 24 boxes and I've got 12 boxes. Because one person is far more unconditionally loving and more accepting and understands the process and been through about 70 more lifetimes than you have. And they understand and they trust God a little bit more. So again, you can never ask that from somebody that's been through 100 more lifetimes than you have. So you're putting that person in an impossible situation that they're not going to check your boxes. And therefore, then you're going to be sitting without a soulmate that will never ever meet your standards, because your standards are not reliable and your standards are not meeting the omnipresent base minimum. It's just unconditional, accept what's coming in, and then you can allow yourself to grow with source energy, to grow with not being in the monkey mind all the time, not being in the ego mind that has to control every outcome. The monkey mind and the ego have to control narrative because it has fear. It's based in fear, control, and domination. When you operate with spirit and you operate within your ascension path work, you understand and you trust more and more every day. Yeah, I can be open. I can be open to this. I've seen things change in miraculous ways when I just let it go. Why would you want to control something that's meant to be so miraculous in its unfolding? You have no idea. If you open up into the highest level of vulnerability, you just allow source to bring in whatever is the highest information, the highest codes, the highest love, the highest shifting of energy, the highest shifting of healing that can be had in one situation of different parties all at the table. When you offer that in for source and you're all being vulnerable and you're all saying, now we're going to surrender everything on the table as to all of our old notions, our old beliefs, our old perspectives, our old dysfunctions, our old outcomes, our old forcing narratives, our old judgments, our old discriminations, our old set it all on the table. And for a half an hour or an hour, whatever that time period is, just allow for unconditional acceptance that all of you are human, that all of you are here for unique experiences, and you are all there in that moment to have been chosen enough to come forward and do something that's never been done in human form ever before. And this is what they want me to keep bringing to the forefront and keep bringing to how important it is and how profoundly pivotal it is that you're standing in your body at the very foregates and forefront of something that has never been done before. And you actually have the potential of consciousness in human form to become harmonized in your spirited human celestial experience of a soul as you're expanding as a soul, to actually look at these most challenging, complex experiences of systems that have been so discriminatory and so dark and dense, to have it being churned and cultivated into something new and expansive and growing that offers potential for everybody and all things across all galaxies. And I'm just speaking from the Galactic Federations and the councils at this point, because I am an ambassador for peace, and I'm an ambassador for all things across the galaxy of the hybridized stations and the experiences of the light temples and the light cities and the cities of light and whereabouts that I move and fly to with Mother, Father, God against all and within all galaxies and universes, to assist in the co-creation of opening up to higher intelligence through light wisdoms and through the forgiving and loving path that is the Christ consciousness, when you're allowing yourselves to be as vulnerable as such. And what does that vulnerability look like? What is vulnerability true? What does vulnerability really feel like? And why do people choose to be vulnerable? Vulnerability is the essence in which all of your chakras and all of your being, heart, mind, body, and soul, the physical and the multidimensional aspects of you, the higher self and the light of you, and the spirit of you and the soul of you, and the matter form body of you, and your physical reality and your spirited reality all sit in a place of surrender. It sits in a place of supple surrender, of supple allowance, and supple acceptance, to say that I don't know. Allow God, allow Source, allow the omnipresence, allow the substrates to assist in the cultivating of churning anew. This in and of essence is, dear lighted ones, we're having there's such celebrations on the other side. You can't, if I could only show you what's going on the other side in the Galactic Federations and Councils. These are just words, but they're highly, profoundly influenced with code and embellished with code. It's an envelope of Christ codes that I'm giving you. So listen to this over and over and over again and make notes and do your studies, because these are profound teachings from the highest realms of consciousness. These in and of itself, going through this supple allowance and acceptance of who we all are as humans. This is the family of humans, knowing that we are coming into a new spiritual alignment and soulful embodiment and soulful harmonization. We're becoming more whole because we're healing, and we're choosing to heal with intention our soul fragments, our old beliefs, our old perspectives, our old separations, our old judgments, our old checking of the boxes, all of these things that we thought we used to have in our primordial old days. So allow yourself to have some outline, the sacred Trinity, and allow yourself to have some outline. I will align in pure unconditional love and acceptance, and I'll make sure that my boundaries are adhered to so that I'm safe. There's always going to be those couple of things that you're going to make sure that you're going to be held safe within. But to hold yourself in a supple allowance, they're just showing me right now why they were doing so much celebration and cheering on the other side. If you can imagine thousands of celestial and ET beings and alien beings that were in this big classroom, this auditorium that we always come within and we always center within, it is our collective gathering of unity between the heavens and the earth. We're building this bridge. And right now it's all etheric, and right now it's all spiritual, and right now I'm bringing you these pictures of resonance and these pictures of a seer that a seer and a conduit has. And this is what a conduit loves so very much, to be this aspect of God where we can explain the various levels of threading that each of you sit within, so that each of you can go away and start having these visualizations of your own and bringing this bridge of unity and conformity, that we are all one. We are all one peoples. We might be in different forms and we might be in different bodies, but we are all the children of Source. And we are all offered the same opportunity of equal measure, infinite possibilities, eternal life. It is that simple. Can you allow life to be that simple? You will always be offered eternal life. You will always be offered eternal opportunities, as long as you are choosing to align within, again, that sacred Trinity. Because you want to arise every day and have the greater good be your opportunity. Why would you ever want your day to be filled with only wins for you and everybody else sucks? Only wins for you while everybody else sucks. Only wins for you while everybody else sucks. Why would you ever want that for yourself? Because you know that in an equal return, it's going to come back to you. It always does. That's the quantum reflection. So we're now opening up into a higher consciousness where church and state can see there's been enough karma, there's been enough return, there's been enough all of these things to know that all that you put out is going to come back, because it is only your reality. You create 100% of it. Can we know that we're moving into higher consciousness of dimensional understanding, of dimensional omnipresent, of the dimensional intelligent field that is all Source, that is God?
We're now allowing ourselves to open up and be vulnerable because we've never allowed God to be explained in such dynamic, open, unified ways of just being one. It is a beautiful pie of one. And then we get to navigate through the infinite possibilities of the threading of energy. The threading of possibility of the energy of a flower is different than the energy of a tree. The energy of a cetacean is different than the energy of a fox. All of these things are source creators, still all. But we get to see it in new ways, and we get to describe source creator God in new ways. We're all still human. We're all still in need of love and acceptance and belonging. We're all still in need of our soul partners that help us grow and help us be loved and have those beautiful sexual experiences and be okay coming forward, facing those shadow aspects so that nobody gets hurt and nobody's disarmed in disease or negativity or harm or families being destroyed. No, you actually get to see your reality in higher consciousness, higher intelligent forms, and that's having light work with you. That's what being vulnerable is all about. I'm going to open in the highest level of unconditional acceptance and radicalness that we are all one. We all will change. That's evolution. We're not going to force narratives to stay stuck. We're not going to force narratives into certain boxes. We're not going to have another person play our role just because we want them to play our role. No, we're going to let go. Because I know in this letting go, I'm going to evolve in my highest. I'm going to be healed in my highest. And I'm also going to allow somebody the compromise that they need to go and grow in different ways, which will be the ultimate growth in my path in different ways. Again, it always serves. It's always equal, always equal. God knows what God's doing. But if we're not open to be vulnerable enough, then we're never going to know what that new field of a higher church and state systems really mean. We are not going to be so separative of we're never going to have church and state systems. No, we are. We need systems because we're such a huge, profound planet. We're going to take some of the things that worked before, but it's going to be fair so that there's no corruptness anymore. It's not fair that such percentage of the people that are, billionaires and trillionaires on the planet and everybody else remains in poverty. That's never been okay, and it never will be okay. We are a species of one. We are all ambassadors to build bridges to first contact to our galactic families. Whether it be Orions, whether it be Pleiadians, whether it be Sirians, within the Sirian collective, there are infinite species that are some humanoid and some not. That are some consciousness and some take form. Depends on what vibrational array we're looking at. Usually above seventh dimensional, they become more or less physical, and it's more quasi-physical. It's more consciousness. It's more like a liquid flow, if you will. And from the seventh dimension and higher, it's just beautiful consciousness and light. And that's why the angels can be with us in the room right now. They don't take form. They only take form when we need it. They prefer not to take form because it just lowers their vibration. But they can project whatever energy or essence or image that they want. Those are infinite. They can project whatever energy they want. They can have a dolphin flying in the sky if they wanted to. If an angel wanted to project a dolphin flying in the sky, they would project a dolphin flying in the sky. That's infinite. Each and every one of you have this potential. But unless you're putting it in boxes and little forms and pro forma, and you're putting it in a little task force, then that's not going to be miraculous that it can be, could it? If you're wanting the highest outcome, you're not going to always say, I'm going to win. That's not the highest outcome. Because perhaps the highest outcome is for you to have humility and to understand that learning to have patience and giving and allowing yourself to be the most vulnerable when you need to be the most vulnerable. Then you're not going to have all the checks and the boxes and the gates and the doors and the locks on the doors and more locks on the doors and more locks on the doors when you needed to be the most vulnerable for that one soulmate that wanted to come through and say, the reason why we both had so many losses and the reason why we both had so many challenges is that the ordainment of our meeting was going to be that we were the only ones that were able to offer each other exactly what we can offer. And can that be just enough? And there's a Shawn Mendes song that I love. I think he says, why, can that be enough? I think his song is why, or isn't that enough? So go look at the new Shawn Mendes playlist, and I think it says, isn't that enough? I've shared that song before, and it's a beautiful song. And it's about a couple that are going through this strange growth time, and she was always looking for this entitlement for a ring and all the things that we used to define in our old world, the beliefs and the perspectives of how we used to feel wanted and needed and claimed and cuffed and all of those things that are so, as you can tell by the words, it's very obligatory. We don't want to move into our soulmate experiences as obligatory. Wouldn't you rather move into your soulmate experience being vulnerable? To know that, you've both had really shitty experiences because you've had to be the most powerful people that can teach a collective to move forward and trust in vulnerability and how much vulnerability can allow you to be successful in so many ways. that you cannot, you would, when you look at yourself in a vulnerable, masterful 5D leadership state, when you're leading countries and you're leading peoples, and you're actually aligning with first contact of the highest consciousness that have ever landed on our planet, when you're allowing yourself to be this vulnerable and just know that you're being taken care of and all is well and all is safe, that's a master. That's Commander Ashtar. And that's what I always look to as my highest leadership. I look to Commander Ashtar and Lord Sananda as my highest leadership teachers. Because for Commander Ashtar to go to the places in the galaxy where they've never been before, and he's just so excited to explore and experience and express, he has so much faith in Source Creator. He has so much faith in all of these different places and these different beings and these different consciousness that he meets. His only care is to come up with the highest level of compromise and unity. That's how vulnerable he is. And he knows there's great power in being vulnerable. Because having that great power of being vulnerable, and I remember I had a client, and the client was telling me a story that was super hard for the client to tell me, but the client knew that they had to heal. And this client was expressing something that they had been through, and they had been given very bad outcome of the physical thing that they had been going through. And it was a very, kind of a negative response as far as, he had been gauging it and judging it. And I was asking if there was anything that I could do, what he needed from me. And in that, he had just lost complete faith at where things were going, because the weight that he had put on that response from the medical field, it didn't check the boxes. It didn't fit the boxes of what, he had forced that outcome to kind of be. And that's where we get ourselves into pickles, because it's only the 3D mind that thinks that and wants that. It's the ego, because the ego doesn't want to face anything else. Well, the death process is necessary, but the death process is an infinite number of things, and we all know that. You can go through a death process just by changing your diet, right? I'm putting a death process to eating fatty foods every day. That's a death process. You're changing who you are alchemically. You're changing who you are spiritually. You're changing who you are in your thoughts and your beliefs and your patterns, right? And that affects everybody in the home. That affects your fridge. It affects the goodwill of your blood. All of these things are affected by those small little choices. And we're just knowing that we're being more vulnerable in a way that what I thought before, if I maybe not had put so much restrictions, maybe there would have been a health benefit that could have cured what I needed to have cured. So there was such restraint and such expectation and such having to and enforcement on this one outcome of the physical part of that being. But the other aspects of him were saying, no, you need to lose that physical experience of you, because the higher aspects of you are wanting to move into something different, and we can just create a new body. But the lower aspects of him were saying, I'm going to hold on to this as long as possible, and I'm going to have such a negative experience of it because I don't know those other aspects of me that are just saying it's time to let this body go because it was so badly abused. And then so your higher self and all the other parts of you are saying, yeah, we can just manifest a body. You've done enough work here. You're going to have a higher consciousness in whatever body you move to next. And that's why some days you wake up just being a different person. Your body might look the same, but an assimilation has occurred where you're not kind of the same. You've got the same soul, and you've had that integration, and you can come out on the other side in a different way, in a different planet, a different world, and a different maturity level. It's how we're placing our restrictions of old world into higher energy, and we can't do that. So how do we build that bridge? How do we navigate these new infinite possibilities? How do we navigate becoming godliness in 5D? By being vulnerable and open and understand that God knows what God's doing. Open up. A soulmate that you're going to create the most impossible things that we have. Again, we want to keep bringing this up because it's so profound. Humanity has never been here before. We're stepping on this bridge. I just see this beautiful bridge that we're stepping on, and all the federations and the galactic federations are in front of us, and we're stepping onto this bridge. We have to meet them halfway. There's this beautiful, beautiful bridge in this open, beautiful field, and on this beautiful field there is a bridge. And the galactic federations and all their ships and all their light ships and all their different travel vessels and their little pods and all of these little things that they travel in. And they make up a great quantity of different ways and different arrays of how they prefer to travel based on their consciousness and their intelligence. And they all like to share secrets with each other. How did you make that? How did you create that? How did you invent that? And it's usually from thought. They don't need fuel anymore. They don't travel by fuel. They travel by consciousness. They travel by vibrational distinction. That's how they travel. They place their consciousness at the vibrational distinctive pattern that they want to go to, and they just create themselves in that space. It's not they can bilocate as well, but it's just manifesting yourself in that space. But in our physical time, because we're still linear, we see the light ship go from one end of the sky to the other. That's not how it is actually in quantum experience. They're here and then they end up here. But our linear eyes see it going linearly. So again, there's lots of things that we have to rework our mind and how our brain sees things, but we have to step up onto that bridge first. We have to step up to the bridge and say, okay, well, am I going to be safe being vulnerable? Yes, you will. Again, when you're trusting yourself that you've allowed yourself to be intuitive, you can read energy. I can sense it. I can know it. I know I'm safe. I've cleaned out those people that constantly keep hurting me. I've cleaned out those people that keep lying to me and stealing from me and taking from me, even though they say they're not, even though they say they've never lied or they've never cheated or they've never stolen from me, even though you never seem to succeed and you never seem to have money and you always seem to have bad luck, but they're always winning, even though they don't do anything but lie and cheat and steal. So you know that there's some illusions and there's some veilings going on that will sort itself out and it will all come out. And those are the parts of church and state and those bubbles of corruption that will absolutely be unveiled, and that's God's job. As long as you're intending that you're arriving in the highest place every day for you and you're calling judgment on what needs to have judgment and you're standing up for yourself in the highest version of you. So then, therefore, spirit will meet you equal measures. Stand up for who you are. If there's something going on, if there's something corrupt, speak about it. Bring it forward. Bring forward the evidence. Bring forward the happy resolve. Bring forward what you're doing to make things better and right, and why it's okay to make things better and right. Because you want the greater good. You want everyone to feel safe and being vulnerable and advancing through their own space and time. Because everybody is at a different consciousness level. There is still the highest outcome for everybody, no matter whether they're at the higher consciousness state or a lower consciousness state, because we're always offering the center so that whatever is offered in this highest possibility of vulnerability, you're offering it to the table. You're not having people, you're not having bare minimums of checks and boxes on everything, because it's not going to offer source what source needs to do to heal that situation. When source gets in there and offers light, we as 3D vibrational beings going into 5D, we have no idea the miracles that God can produce. I mean, again, I shouldn't be here, but I am. Every day I come forward to these new miracles and I'm just like, I don't understand how that took place, but thank you. Thank you so much. You know, the omnipresent is now saying, well, if you just let go of the resistance, when you have so much abuse, when you have so much dysfunction, when you have so many people that have let you down, when you have had so much failure and the reality is giving you superficiality, people that stab you in the back, people that never follow through, people that lie, people that are living in lies, people that live in falsities, people that live in superficiality all the time. All of these things, it's just that mirror. You're just saying, okay, enough is enough. And then you start creating these checks and boxes so that you're not going to step out of being totally vulnerable, being totally sweet and innocent, being totally authentic and cute and real and awkward and silly and falling down sometimes and getting back up and all of these things that make us look weak, but it's not. It's who we are as authentic beings, just learning how to and remember how to be godly again. Do you not think that even a 6-dimensional Syrian doesn't play around on his planet and trip and fall sometimes? When it's levitating and balancing upside down and backwards and levitating through space and doing acrobatics in the air because they levitate. They don't sometimes walk. Sometimes they walk just because they can walk and they want to use their body and they want to use their physicality, but a lot of them don't walk. They float and levitate and they just here and they're there the next second. They play with consciousness. They play with consciousness to allow themselves to experience the fullness of consciousness. They don't, at that level, they don't play with consciousness to hurt people and take people out because they want to have a little ranking on their clout chaser thermometer. They don't play with consciousness because they understand unity consciousness. They understand the glory of being unified. They understand the glory of seeing other people in love as well. They understand the glory of, wow, if I can feel love and if I can be vulnerable, offering love, and I can feel vulnerable, empowering love and enhancing these greater systems. Look, all of those people are benefiting because of my inventiveness. That's going to make me feel really good about my legacy. It's going to make me feel really good about how many people can be healed down the road because I'm bringing these higher light wisdoms forward. You don't have to have it this way or that way. The psyche has been so used and the psyche has been so abused, especially with governments that are inciting war, especially with governments that are inciting agendas like MK Ultra and mind washing and brainwashing and mind scraping. All of these things that are just enforcing hatred. They're enforcing demons. They're enforcing weaponization of humans. How is that leading to the collective feeling safe within itself? Or was that the intention? You don't want the collective to feel safe within itself. You want the collective to keep fighting. Because then that keeps the attention off of what dastardly deeds are really going on behind the scenes and by whom. All of it will come out because the higher light we are rising every day, that stuff just has no, that darkness cannot stand in that light. So there's always going to be that dissonance, but it will show what's really being out of alignment, what's really not being in truth, what's really not serving us. Therefore, that's then we can offer the highest potentiality of vulnerability. We can look at it from a more vulnerable perspective by keeping your boundaries as well. You're not going to want yourself to be abused. You're not going to want yourself to be, punched in the face and all of your stuff stolen from. But you're going through the process of now, you got your daily ascension path work. You're doing your healing and your clearing. You're cleansing your fields every day. You're calling in your protective sealing light so that you're protected by Archangel Michael, so that people aren't going to siphon and harvest off you. You've done your due diligence. You're operating from a higher conscious state now because you're learning about light wisdoms. You're being more motivated by light wisdoms because you know that there's a direct feedback. You're absolutely enhancing yourself by light wisdoms. You're seeing your health. You're seeing your aliveness. You're seeing all these things work out for you because you're infusing and you're intending light. All of these things are working for you. You're being more vulnerable with light. You're being more vulnerable with, yes, Source Creator. I can just start to define and I can start to see things. I can start to see God in things. I can start to see and determine and allow myself to be more flexible with this version of God that I want God to be. And that's where we're getting to, that at full acceptance, radical acceptance of every human on earth, every celestial being, every alien, everything in creation, our godliness is. And why can't that be a starting point? And then allow God to do the rest. How we have had such wounding is because of the dysfunction, because of the ostracization, because of the highly imbalanced parents that we've had, the systems that we've had, church and state that we've had, the abuses and corruptions that obviously we've seen just through my case. I've explained and I've expressed so many corruptions on every level. I had to, because I was the sacrifice, so that I can come forward and I can express and I can sense and I can offer the various corruptions going in within the threading of Source Creator, the vibrational threads that are within Source Creator, the dimensional experiences within Source Creator. Which of these dimensional threads that we're all moving and shifting every day, every new day, the dimensional threads are shifting because our consciousness is. We want more. We want to be intrinsically motivated. We don't want that extrinsic experience anymore. We don't want the outer determining who we are. We are going to be more vulnerable. We're going to intend to say, now that I've got my checks and balances by that sacred Trinity and doing my due diligence with my field, that's what I'm responsible for. I'm responsible for my vibration. My core vibration will determine what earth I'm on. My core vibration will determine I'm going to offer in that highest vibrational soulmate that I know I deserve. I'm worthy of being loved the way that only I can be loved. And I know that Source Creator, knowing all the dimensions I exist upon, knowing all the councils that I belong within the whole multiverse, the beings that I work with on different councils, the beings I work with in different galaxies, the beings that I work with that are operating all aspects of me, all aspects of me want the highest potential. All aspects of me want the highest level of vulnerability. I'm offering all aspects of me, that 51% and then some, right? God just says 51% for you to ascend into 5D. That's God's pro forma, because we have to do some work. We don't want to get to 5D and not know what the fuck we're doing. We need to get to 5D and have certain lessons, which your guides are responsible for, your higher self is responsible for you to move through these discrimination, separation lessons of divine feminine, divine masculine, lessons of the wounding of the psyche. We have to become in more balance so that when we get to our full operating system of our Merkaba, our light body, we're going to know how to travel from here to there. And it just be a second, a breath. Again, we have to prepare ourselves for things that we don't even know yet. Again, you can't know what you don't know. Because the psyche, because the soul, because the human part of you, the emotional part of you, the mental part of you, the intellectual part of you only knows dysfunction, corruption, and abuse, sometimes we've had to work with these things called checklists. And what about if I meet my soulmate and they don't check off this box, that box, or that box? What if they're not standard? What if they don't have standard beauty like everybody else in the magazines? What if they say things every once in a while that nobody else understands and they're looking at them going, okay, who are you? You just came off the crazy light ship. Well, that's how we operate in light ships. That's how we operate in higher vibrational statuses. That's how we operate all over the universe. It might not be how you operate in a small, tiny church and state where you've only been told one belief. But we're operating in a consciousness now where everything is open and everything is possible because it's needed. We're not going to be able to resolve some of the human issues unless we come with the highest level of vulnerability to allow Source to do what Source needs to do within us and through us and of us. Because are we not in, of, as spirit? And say, yes, I am. Yes. So we wanted to bring this really exciting topic forward about vulnerability. And we can see vulnerability from so many different threads and so many different perspectives. Right? Who you were yesterday in this version of perspective of you, this psyche experience version of you, if you had asked yourself yesterday about vulnerability, and work with vulnerability for the rest of the week until next week. And over the weekend, give yourself some really highly spiritual experiences where you can say, I want to test myself on vulnerability. You know, if there's somebody that you really like and you want to reach out to that person, you know that you're magnetized to that person for a reason, you know, because you keep getting them in your dreams, you keep feeling, you know, when you see a picture of them across your live stream. I had this happen to me last week when I saw this picture of this beautiful being that is in my soul family, and that, you know, my teams are preparing me to meet this beautiful being. I've had memories of this person come to me in my visions and in my meditation, where I sense and I feel energy all the time. So I'm always talking with his higher self, and so I understand the energies already. But there's been situations where I'll just be you know, on a totally different topic, and I'm learning something. I'm going to look something up, and I'll go through my feed and I'll see a picture, and just a picture comes up, even if it's in a resonance or a similarity of, and my consciousness goes to that picture in remembrance of the energy that's in my field, and us coming together to reunite after eons of being away and apart in different consciousness and different planets and different sojourns that we're both on for the galaxy, for the multiverse, for our own souls. And it's just like that story I told you earlier about my Pleiadian, you know, soulmate, the one that was here and then passed away many years ago, and that, you know, he is in the Pleiades, and he chose not to take a body, because I was hoping that he was going to take a body, because I had remembered my celestial love with him, and I knew that we could do great things here on Earth if we remembered that, and we brought that celestial love forward on Earth ground, Earth soil, Earth garden. And this is where many of you were, this is what Spirit was showing me, that many of you that have been on the path of ascension for so long, you know, and you've done so much great work, and you've done so much, the ones of my clients, I have to tell you, I have the best clients in the world. When I met these clients, Source made sure that these beings were so beautiful at a soul space. And I knew right off the bat that these clients that we had, these weekly classes and monthly master classes and all of the things that I'd put on for my clients, was because that there was such a length of soul journeys with each other. And my clients are the most beautiful beings in that they understand with no question and with no hesitation that they're just godly. And even though they have their insecurities, and even though they have many wounds of abuse and many wounds of not being accepted, these beings are just beautiful beings through which we're all beautiful soul tribe and soul family. And we've been brought together quite purposefully and intentionally to show each other that reflection of, I'm not ever going to give up on you. I'm never going to give up on you, no matter how hard it might seem. I'm going to be that one, you know, gardener that lifts open the canvas and says, no, we're going to bring in the light, and we're going to start cultivating things in a new way. And we're not going to know the end result. We're not going to have all the answers, but we're going to navigate it together. And we're going to excavate this garden together. And we're going to pull out what needs to be pulled out. And we're going to face what needs to be faced. But I'm never giving up on humanity. And even though my Pleiadian soulmate said, I'm not going to take a human body, but I'll be on your spiritual team, that whenever you need me, you just have to call my name. And I've called him a couple of times just to give me that love in a masculine form, because I've been so abused by the masculines on this planet. And Father said, you have these are your choices. You can choose a different realm, a different planet. And we can choose to just take you back home to the Pleiades. Or do you want to... Do you want to see it through in your physical body? And I know there's infinite beings that support me in all of my celestial realms and Mother, Father. And I said that I would stay as long as the collective heart wanted me. And it didn't matter what had happened to me before, and it didn't matter how much was stolen or taken or harvested and used, and how much I had not been given to, but the one or two flowers and plants and species that are in my garden that give to me unconditionally have been my saving grace. because I know that I've been shown we've never been at this place before. And when you put your foot and just step your foot on the ground of that bridge that's being offered, it's like everything that has ever been dysfunctional and everything that's been so separative and painful and abusive just washes away. And the hate that people portray at you sometimes doesn't even matter, because you're in a new book and you're turning a new page of, my God, we've been here. Humanity is doing something so very new. And you wouldn't want to miss it for anything, even if it makes you feel uncomfortable sometimes, and even if most of the beings around you cannot give you the level of love that you give in a moment, in an hour, in a breath. And when someone's being so hateful and you just wish them love, because you know they haven't stepped into the consciousness of knowing that everything outside of them is a reflection. And you wait for other people to catch up. And so my story is quite unique because I have been in many places and many realms and many bodies, and I can sense myself on different realms and different experiences and on light ships, and all the beautiful family that I have through Commander Ashtar, and all the species that I represent. And hoping and knowing that within my intention to be the best version of me, that when I see those images and when I see the beautiful beings and the beautiful seeds and the flowers, that your hearts are so beautiful and unified with mine, that you've allowed me to come back. Because I have much to offer that no other being can offer the way I do. And even if 80% don't understand the level of love and light and unconditional love that you offer, and unconditional expansiveness that you offer, and unconditional uniformity of oneness of all creation that you offer, and the version of God and the window of God and the idea of God that you offer, and the level of, silliness and awkwardness and authentic genuineness that you offer, because they're sitting in a place of such self-illusions and self-delusions and self-deprecation and self-judgment and self-separation, that you allow them that because that's where they need to be. But that it won't change what you offer and who you are. Because when you're vulnerable to that degree, and you can just trust that, God, you're going to show me through this, even though I don't understand it now. I haven't understood it the past 10 years. The level of lies and the level of manipulations that had to take place that weren't necessary on any level. But because people were operating in such a corrupt aspect of themselves, they were corrupting their spiritual aspect. They were corrupting that sexual suppression aspect. They were corrupting their ability to be in oneness with their family. They were corrupting so much of themselves that they weren't allowing themselves that uniformed oneness to live life in a way that is not below ground or underground or dark black web. And they can come up to the light and face it and be absolutely radically accepting within themselves. And that's how you heal those psyche fragments, is you allow yourself that absolute ultimate, that you are the gardener, you are the soil, you are the water, you are the seed, you are the flower, you are the one that pulls the weeds, you are the one that sets the boundaries, you are the one that says, no, I'm not going to know what the outcome of this garden is, but I'm still going to plant it. I don't know what the outcome of my legacy will be, but I absolutely know that I'm meant to be here to build a great legacy that will be long-standing for all planets and all creation. My healing systems and my wisdoms and my authentic experience and expression of just being beautiful. Because I just want to talk about God and creation. I want to share that. And why is that so worthy of being impaled and separated and stolen from and taken from and abused? But I have to also be vulnerable and say God will allow those the healing that they need. And if they don't require the healing and they just need to be moved, and that's up to God and them, right? I have to get my tissue. So, anyways, I just had that huge epiphany about, vulnerability. And I wanted to share it. So if we can, how about in the notes in the comment fields? I mean, I've been that same way too, because I've been so hurt, right? And I've been so hurt, and especially most of it has been by men and the divine masculine, because I am such a strong woman. I've always been a strong woman. You know, even when I was younger, I always just wanted to play with everybody. I wanted to play with the boys. I wanted to play road hockey like the boys. I wanted to play basketball. I wanted to challenge myself and be the best version that I could be. And that didn't mean just keeping yourself to one race or one experience, you know. I had my Barbies, and I played all the girl things too, but I also wanted to play boy things. Like, what was wrong with playing boy things? Right? I love sports. I had so much energy. I wanted to climb trees. I wanted to play road hockey. I wanted to ride my bike. I wanted to learn how to do skids, and then I wanted to play Barbies. I wanted to play with my hair. I want to do all these girly things too. Like, what's wrong with that? But because I was an advanced being, I was easily moving my energies back and forth, and that's what was needed in the dysfunctional house that I was brought up in. Of course, having to deal with transmuting the hexes and the curses that were placed on me, I shouldn't have survived. I shouldn't have survived the curses and the hexes that were done by individuals that never wanted me to ever survive, and never wanted me to come out of the surrendering of my inheritances and any monies in my work that I would be inventing. My work is my invention. My intellectual property is mine. And it's all mine, that I'm going to continuing to grow my brand. I'm going to continue to grow all that I am as an intellectual being of Source Creator. And I'm going to bring forward the beautiful healing systems that are mine, that are uniquely mine. And those that copy and use and doppelganger and all of that, they don't have the codes of being the genuine alignment. They don't have the codes of being a genuine seer, a genuine authentic conduit. And I've been the proof of all of those things, that the stories of God and the parables that Jesus brought forward and all the masters that bring forward, just being you authentically is enough. Just being you in genuineness is enough. And knowing that when you're vulnerable enough to yourself to say that all of those so very hard experiences of being used and abused and betrayed and stabbed in the back by those people that faced you at one time and said they loved you, that faced you at one time and said they would never lie to you, that faced you at one time and said, no, this, and this, and they were actually lying on court papers, and they were lying to the family members, and they were lying to everybody. Meanwhile, you were the one that was barely surviving and, living on dirt, and being treated so horribly, and your word not being taken as your word, because there were so many false narratives in the skewing of the picture of things and the soup of things, that you had to go back and you had to recreate things from such a pure perspective, and just continually being you was enough. That's all that you needed to do, is just be you, and let the energy and the residue of all the shifting timelines and the shifting stories and the shifting narratives, because always truth will always prevail. The light will always show what is not in light. The light and the truth and the alignment will always show what's not in alignment. So just allow that. And that's why your teams and your guides will say, keep going, keep going, keep going. Because there is a lot of shifting with timelines. There is a lot of shifting with energy. There's a lot of shifting with where people want their perspective of Earth, what they want their reflections of their Earth experience to look like. The possibilities are infinite. So every day, do your ascension path work. What is my Earth reflection that I want that to look back at? I want to have beautiful tribe that are aligned. I want to have tribe that work with me, that will lift me as I lift them. I want to have a reciprocation so that it's balanced and equal, that I'm actually nourished as a spiritual being, right? I actually have those soulful engagements that are nourishing for me. I want that. I want to be challenged so that I can bring my highest level of intelligence. As a divine feminine, it really gets me excited. I remember taking this one class, physical and biological anthropology, and I really loved that class. And I had this really great teacher, and she was just amazing, and she would bring this awkwardness of eclectic. She would give us an eclectic quote at the beginning of the day, and then we'd have to try and fit that eclectic quote into the physical anthropological experiences of being a biological person and on the earth. And what did that mean at being so primordial? And how could we move it in and about it with coming up with new theories and hypotheses, and coming up with the adaptation that we've had to go through time, and all of these things that make us, adapting humans and adapting experiences of spirit. We're really adapting experience of spirits, because when you activate that DNA, she didn't know this, but I do now. This is why I think that all the classes I took way back then are now they're now coming back to me in new ways, and why I often have those remembrances of just come into my memory as I'm getting ready or something. I'll remember that class. Oh yeah, she was a cool teacher, and I don't know how she did what she did, but when she offered that, I just thought of things in a totally different way. And that's why I feel so happy about being a conduit and a teacher, for Source Creator and for Ascension and for bringing all of my, intellectual properties forward and my intellectual healing systems forward, because I know that on all the other realms within the Galactic Federations, it's a realm that's in the unseen, it's a realm that's in spiritual and etheric, but there's still just as much physicality up to the 7th dimension that there is all the way up to the 13th dimension. We're just in such a physical experience, a primordial experience. We're learning how to heal ourselves at a very primordial experience. We're learning how to heal ourselves at the elemental basis, and we have to. We have to understand the alchemic experiences of fire, water, air, and the sands and the soils, and working within the garden and churning that and excavating. We have to do that because we're physical. We have to move through this very thick, dense energy that's taken 5,000 years to live in discrimination of, and the bigotry and the biases and the systems that we've made up are primarily divine masculine. And they're not divine if they're operating in completely corruptive ways of taking out all divine feminine, all children and everybody as light workers and studying them and, ripping apart their bodies and opening them up to see if they can clone them and weaponize them and all these things. And of course, of which we've said that, any one of those agendas that are doing human experimenting and human testing, none of them on any spiritual level, none of them on any universal level, and none of them on any galactic level, none of any of that on a human level is ever seen within the greater good, and it's never going to be okay with, and you will unconditionally get negative karma in an unconditional manner. Because none of it is operating in the natural order of our law, of our universe, of basic life. The basic life operating rule that we've already discussed, the rules and the operating foundation from here on out that everybody should be looking at and thinking about and reflecting upon daily. Natural order. Natural order is the natural allowance of all life systems to do and be as they wish through these beautiful, profound times of energy, omnipresent, omnisource, omnipresent field, the omni-intelligence moving in how it needs to be through our profound planetary alignment that is moving through ascension. We're moving through time and space differently. Our bodies are moving. Our bodies and our brains are being rewired and enhanced and expelled into new experiences. Thus, therefore, then, no one person on this planet. Doesn't matter how elite they are, how much money they have, or what their agendas or intentions might be because of their wounding and their warps and their delusions. They do not play God, and they do not have any right to come up with such dehumanizing agendas such as MK Ultra programs, which are still being used, technological warfare, which are still being used to those that are unknowing, of those of us that are coming forward as seers and healers and teachers. And if God says, bring this forward, it needs to stop. You need to bring this up. We need to talk about it. That's calling judgment on it. We're calling judgment today on all technological warfare that the collective is not knowing on a collective basis. And we don't want to appear numb and dumb. We're calling judgment on all the things that are no longer serving our health and our wellness for the highest level of intelligence and our highest evolutionary potential that we all have. Because that's our universal birthright. Our universal birthright is to be the highest evolving beings that we so desire. And we will be given equal measure on all levels of all dimensions of all experiences and all bodies and all moments of memory that we have, recollecting ourselves and remembering ourselves, reharmonize ourselves into oneness. That's our job. Our job is to maintain our vibration while we are reintegrating our soul fragments and reharmonizing ourselves as the greater aspects of Source. I am in the image of the Divine Mother and the Divine Father. I'm healing my divine fragments of masculine and feminine energies. I am a fully infused soul being. And in such, I'm going to go through these various aspects of navigation through the cultivation of all that is life. There are going to be people in their belief systems and in their pacing and temperament of how they move through energy. What is their soul contract with creation? What is their soul contract with their tribe? What is their soul contract with everybody that they've signed on to being with? Are they being with karmic partners because they're afraid? Then that's their job to work out. Are they being with karmic people because they've signed their life away, because they're giving their power away? That's up to them to work out. You can be the best guide that you can, but you cannot stop and delay your path because they're choosing not to go forward, but they're getting more out of just feeding off of you and harvesting out of you while they go play in devil land. So you do have to set those boundaries of what you're willing to put up with and what you're not willing to put up with. And mine was a great lesson of that. And every time I come forward with those lessons, I bring them forward and I offer as collective healings and collective lessons, because everybody on our planet is going through levels of corruption, that their voices are not being heard, that their families are doing things behind the scenes with insurance and with wills and estates that they don't have permissions with, they don't have legal rights to. There are secret societies, cults and covens, and secret masonry groups that have been in our society for, a couple hundreds of years, and they've been getting away with having people being paid to, turn the other way and look the other way, and the sleight of the hand, and, paperwork going back and forth, and various discrepancies, and various, criminal acts that go on, withholdings that go on, systematic abuses that go on, dark occult abuses that go on mentally, physically, emotionally, and spiritually, depriving the person of their physical rights, depriving the person of their spiritual rights, depriving that person of their voice, depriving that person of a safe space to walk and to be held in. All of these things are parts of our human rights. They're parts of our universal beingness. And there's no group or culture, there's no being on our planet that ever states, that has the power to say, you're an advanced human, so we're going to rip out your DNA and we're going to study you for a while. And we're going to put you under these covert testing systems. We're going to put you under these covert sabotaging systems where everybody around you will be purposely placed so that we get to study you and we get to sabotage you as much as possible to see how much negative and dark energy you can take. And then you're going to show us how to do it. And then we're going to take all your ideas and your intellectual property. We're going to take your business ideas. We're going to take your vibrational ideas. We're going to take your vibrational predictions. We're going to take everything that you say that is source. And then we're going to make fake AI pages. We're going to make money off of that. And then we're going to put the exploitations of how we danger you and how we put you in harm's way and how we take from you and how we steal from you and how you come forward being sad some days. And we're going to exploit that in the underground. And we're going to do snuff videos on it. We're going to say this and we're going to buy you back and forth. And we're going to sell you into false marriage. We're going to sell you to false covens. There was so much abuse done on my name and on my energy. And people took advantage of me on every way they could. Took advantage of me because of how I looked, took advantage of me because they misjudged me, they took advantage of me, they thought they could get away with calling me dumb and negligent and porn-ridden and drug-ridden and couldn't wipe my own bum, homeless, yes, because they enforced that homelessness, they enforced poverty, they were spending money, they enforced poverty, and then they go and blame me for being in poverty. Okay, well, how about you stop signing checks away and putting houses in my name that I'm never going to live in? And going on European vacations that I've been homeless. How was, where are the monies for me? You're using my information, using my predictions, you're using my energy, you're harvesting my energy with your little sex orgies, you're enforcing poverty on my behalf, and then you're teasing me for being in poverty. So what does that make you? Again, no intelligence. It is an enslaved tribe. It's like a human hunting playground. What I came from was a human hunting playground. They enforce insanity. They enforce medical issues by doing voodoo and hexes and jar work and blood work and root work. All of these horrible things that they've been doing on me for my whole life. And then when you do get sick, they tease you. Well, you must be sick. Well, you must be not well in your mind. You must be this, you must be that. Well, because you've got groups of 10 and 20 and 130 that are pressing your damning satanic fuck shit on me. What do you expect? Oh no, you must be perfect because we've got a double standard going here. We can be illegal and we can be criminal and we can be corrupt and we can wear our suits and tell everybody that we have a title and we have all these letters behind our name and we work in the judge system and we're paying people back and forth and we're taking monies back and forth. And our financial audits will never come through because we're so financially corrupt and we're setting things in court that, we're bearing false witness and we're perjuring ourselves all over the place, but we're never going to get tested because we're double standard. We're the right ones. We're the only ones that are going to win on this planet. We're the corrupt white men that are elite. We will win. We are the ones that have our systems and we are the only ones that will win and everybody else is going to lose. And as we said, to be the highest level of master, to have your highest level of ranking, you're going to have to lose because maybe that's what's needed. Because there will be balance. That's universal law. There will be Divine Father's plan. That is God's plan. And nobody has say over that. It doesn't matter how highly ranked you are on this planet. And there is no human system, there's no human experiment, there's no human anything that would say anything that has been done with me the past 50 years has been in 1 ounce humane. It's been illegal and it's been inhumane. Nobody has the right to do spell work on anybody without permission. Nobody has the right in any way, on any level, and it is law to do a power of attorney without that person being involved. Medically, physically, emotionally, financially, spiritually, intellectually. These are actual laws. You cannot just arbitrarily make up a power of attorney and have somebody fraudulently sign it and then to think that you're going to start signing over checks. So the businesses that are involved, the wills and estates, the banks that are involved, the insurance companies that are involved, the lawyers companies that are involved. And when your client comes forward and says, these things don't make sense, these things are not looking right to me, these things are not adding up monetarily, so you need to actually look into this. And it's up to the lawyer. It's actually up to the lawyer. If your client brings it forward, it is up to the lawyer to do the due diligence to make sure that their clients are not lying. Because in the city of Calgary, in the cults and the covens, and this goes to the corruption that will be brought forward up to the judicial systems, up to the magistrates of the courts and the judges that are ruling under them. In my case alone, there will be those that will be brought out in the judges and in the court rulings, that there have been many that have been lying, their faces off. They have been bearing false witness, and everybody involved bearing false witness. You have this opportunity right now that if you have bore false witness on any legal document, you should be going to the authorities in the courts right now and having a letter of your own defamation and recalling that defamation statement. You should be doing this to make your karma right, and you should be doing this to make your soul right. If you have bore false witness, you need to reclaim that statement and make it correct. And there has been judges and lawyers that have allowed their clients to lie to them in the face, and the lawyers have still gone through and made their bullying statements and taken further action legally when they knew their clients in front of them were lying. And if you were a good lawyer in your judicial standing and your statement of an oath that you took, if you know your client is lying to you, you should not go any further with that client. It doesn't matter whether they pay you or not. And if they try to blackmail you or if they try to get you involved in an entrapment, then you go to them and you go to your higher authorities. But you should never go forward as a lawyer of the oaths that you've taken of the judicial board to bring forward the highest level of innocence and justice and fairness on all parties involved. If you know your client is lying, you should not be moving forward with any further legal action with your client. Because then you are taking on that legal obligation of taking on their debts of their lies and their deceits. And you're trying to sway the court system to ensure that your client is going to get off when the innocent party is being nothing but further impaled. The justice system is to ensure that there is justice, dear lighted ones. And if your lawyers are still seething on behalf of the corruptive experiences and the corruptive lies and making sure that you're going to get paid because your client's going to pay you to lie. Your client's gonna pay, make it pay and make sure the papers move around just enough so that you're gonna get your client off on being a liar, on being a bigot, on being discriminatory, on being a human rights degrading person that has killed people. Then you will also suffer that weight. Your soul will suffer that weight, dear lawyer. And I will make sure of it. The judicial systems will be changing. We will come up with new laws that will be in alignment of the heavens, and that will be in alignment that no dark occult is okay. You don't have permission. If you are using dark occult on a daily basis to sway and force your narrative and force your outcome and force your win and to force your gain and to force this and force that and force this and for that, it is not natural order. It's not right use of free will and non-interference, and it is not the universal balance. You have absolutely gone against the first three laws of natural evolution, and you will be pulled out and plucked however your soul will need it and want it, and however God deems necessary for the equality and the equal measure of your karma on every person that you have damaged and climbed on their backs to get your win and your gain. Because you just had to win and you had to discriminate against the divine feminine that is bringing these things forward in the higher justice and higher order of our new 5D earth. We must be higher vibrational, dear lighted ones. The corruption will be no more. And it does not matter how much money you want to pay others to come and lie for you and to sway narratives for you. Your depths of darkness and your deceits and your corruptions will be found out, because we're in a higher omni light right now. And anything that is not in alignment of the light and truth and honesty and clarity and transparency and justice for all, whether you're a judge on the judicial courts or the highest courts in North America, you will be pulled from your position. And you will lose everything. And if that's what you're willing to do, then you cannot complain and you cannot take on the fact of, I don't want my reputation to be tarnished. Well, all you did was tarnish another person's reputation when they were completely 100% innocent, and you knew it. You knew the papers that were changing hands. You knew the people that got paid. You knew the lawyers that took the sleight of hand. You knew the lawyers with their clients in front of them that were lying their faces off. So you cannot complain about the reforming of your reputation, because it is actually equal. If you choose to go into something deceitful, you're deceitful. Own it. And then alchemize it and then heal yourself. You cannot say you are righteous. You cannot say you're sitting on the bench. You cannot put on your black robe with your white undershirt and have the gavel in hand and say that you are unconditionally righteous. and that you follow the truth at all times. When you're paying people and you're playing in an underground debauchery system at nights and with swingers on weekends, meanwhile you're lying to your children's face and the ex-wife's face and your wife's face and all the other walls that you sit within. Meanwhile, you're having little minions and little corrupt secret societies and little corrupt witches and warlocks go out and sabotage and defame someone as much as you can because someone's coming forward with truth that you just don't want to face or hear. But you want the rest of the world to see that you're righteous. You can't have it both ways, dear light ones. You're not playing both sides. You cannot play devil in your private time and then come forward and say you're a righteous judge. Everybody's going to be called, and it's coming out every day. There is a cleaning and a pulling and a cleansing. We are in higher vibrational, earthly, multidimensional ascension light on our planet. The omnipresent, the God source light, the omni-intelligent light, the Metatronic light, the Christed light. Our Christ consciousness is growing and gaining every hour. When you choose to live in truth, when you choose to speak in truth on behalf of your spirit, heart, mind, body, and soul, are your rights being observed? Are your rights being honored and respected? Are you being treated in fairness with respect and honor and intelligence of fairness and truth and justice? And if not, speak up about it and keep speaking up until things are done. Because this is a new earth. We will no longer continue in corrupt times, and we will have better leaders that will take us there. And we're going to learn how to navigate and excavate this garden together. And every church and state system will be infused with higher vibrational divine Christed light so that each of us can be vulnerable and accept that we are all human. We are all moving through this profound experience at the same time, all at once. We will all have different temperament and pacing for how we move through ascension, and everybody is responsible for healing their own soul fragments. Nobody's going to do the work for you. Nobody's going to give you a free pass. You cannot take somebody out with intentions of death rituals more than 2,000 times, and you cannot steal their money, you cannot steal their name, you cannot use their ID, you cannot clout chase off them, you cannot harvest off of them, you cannot have your orgy sex parties, and then come back and say, can we be best buddies? Can I get back in your energy and do it all over again? It's going to be a fuck no. You got to go away and you got to learn how to get your own light. Because every master will show you every time, and every video that you ever go back and listen to, and every radio show I've ever created. Every statement and every ending of my show has been the same, and every offering I brought forward since the beginning of time, and why I was placed with the darkest people on this planet. The most corrupt and the most manipulative and the best liars on this planet. I've had them all in my family and face me and in my experience. I've faced the best liars on this planet. And the ones that will do anything possible to make you look like a horrible human being when everything they've said about you is actually their life and their deeds. One thing is for real, dear lighted ones. The best teachers and the best masters will always return you to center. They will return you to who you are within, and there is the only power that is what you will ever need. It will never be outside of you, it will always be within. You and God are within. You and creation is within. You and your intelligence is within. You and the highest love is within. You and the highest becoming is within. You and your highest forgiveness and compassion is within. Go within. Never give your power away. Never give your power to outer. You will always be lost. You will always be confused because that's never where your power resides. And this is why church and state must be infused with the highest consciousness of who we are becoming from within and out, and as above, so below. It will always be this way. These are truths. Allow for natural order. Life knows what life is doing. Let God do God's job. Offer God in, offer light in every day, if you so wish. If you wish to move upon the path of eternal light, ask yourself this every day. Do I wish the infinite expressions through God Source Creator to be an eternal life being? Ask yourself this. Is eternal life, for me to live eternally with Source Creator God, is this important to me? Yes or no? Ask this to yourself every day. And then your intentions and your actions and your movement forward will be in such alignment. Whereas if not asking the question at all will leave you in ignorance. You're just leaving yourself up to fate and whatever unrolls in the day. No, I choose to be in access and in alliance with light at all times. I am here because of my alliance with light, because of what I teach. I am here because of what I have taught. I am here because of my faith and my alliance with Mother, Father, God, and the God that I know and the God that I love expressing about. And it's okay that if nobody on this line understands it or wants to understand it or wants to believe it, and they don't want to believe in a God and they don't want to believe in a God outside a Bible or a church, that's fine. then you don't have to come to my channel. You have free will to be here or not be here. If it triggers you so much, you don't have to be here. I have my right to speak of the God that I know and the God that I'm experienced in, being a higher vibrational, higher dimensional being that has been fully acclimatized to be my soul version, because I've infused and I've integrated so many of my soul aspects. I've done the work. I've earned it. I have the right to have the gifts and the skills and the talents of every soul experience. Therefore, I'm going to be offering the highest soul infused experience of me, because I'm a more soul infused being. Doesn't it make sense? You become more whole, you offer more wholeness. That means I offer more gifts and skills and talents. That's the equal opportunity. That's what God always offers you. You do the work, here's your gifts. You do the work, here's your blessings. You can't take all the work from somebody else. You can't take everybody else's work. You can't take somebody else's intellectual property. You can't take somebody's downloads and say, I'm going to put on a webinar and I'm going to say that I'm going to do all of these things. And I'm just going to use the energy from this other light worker. I'm going to use the energy and the wisdoms from this other light worker. And I'm going to say that it's all mine. And so you have this webinar where you're charging people $50 a ticket and you're making all the money on it. And yet the people that you've taken the energy off of, the people you've taken the intellectual property off of, the fake AI pages you've made, and the pilfering of the videos and the pilfering of the views and the pilfering of the upload dates and all the things that you've altered because you've wanted to corrupt that person so bad. You wanted to take everything that person was worth. You wanted to harvest that soul. You wanted to harvest everything that soul was. You took their name, you took their energy, you took their ideas, you took the vibration they offered, you took their predictions, you stood in front of your church with their prediction, you said their predictions through your mouth. You're doing everything that you can to harvest that soul and trade that destiny. But you don't have an ounce of that consciousness because you haven't earned it. And you will be sat down. You cannot go to 5D faking it. You would not survive. You would go insane. Your body would not handle it. You have not entrained your body to carry light because you live in lies. Your chakras are closed and dense because of the lies. They're not turning. They're not accepting light. Your body will become diseased because there is no light in it. Light quotient is very real. Source creator light quotient is very real. Do your own research on self-actualization. You're becoming more and more light every day. You're becoming more and more harmonized with your light body every day. We talk about the sheaths. That's your higher oversoul giving you codes of light on your lower bodies. And it's an activation and it's alchemy. You know something you didn't know the day before. That's becoming your higher self. Your job is to clear 51% divine feminine masculine woundings so you can become more and more and more light consciousness. The growing of source within source. The smaller soul aspect to the higher soul aspect sees itself as whole. You're not separated anymore. You're not trying to beat and discriminate. You're not trying to hurt and impale and take people out because they don't believe with your way of life. So why is it a double standard? You get to do and be everything you want. You get to have all the money. You get to have everything you want. It's always your way. And everybody else loses. But as long as you're not found out for your lies and your discrimination, your misogyny, your narcissism, that's basically how it is. It's a narcissistic planet. Because the wounding is there. People are not doing their sexual suppression wounding. And so they project everything on everybody else. They project their crimes. They project their wounding. They project the lies and the things they're not willing to face. And they project it onto the innocent person that is showing them pure truth because they're living in truth. I'm standing in truth. I will not change. So whatever you're triggered in is what you have to look at. I'm here to be your trigger. So get over that. Now that you've gotten over it, now you can do the work. That's your work. That's your ascension work. That's calling in that soul fragment. The part that we wanted to talk about today, which is so beautiful, and we're going to end off with just right now because we've got a few more minutes left, is the vulnerability. So let's call in our celestial teams and our celestial councils. We're wanting to ask for our beautiful healing teams and great gratitude and great humility, Holy Spirit, and all of our celestial teams and the higher aspects of ourselves that are all the way up to the 13th dimension in various forms, in various bodies, in various planets, in various galaxies that we all have access to. And we're asking for the highest level of sweetness and vulnerability within ourselves as a soul being and a soul package of all of our infinite beings that come with us, our teams and our galactic councils, the galactic federations, the star councils, systems of light, the councils of light, the hybrids councils, the Orion light councils, the Pleiadian light councils. There's so many different councils. There's an infinite number of councils we all belong to. And we just wanted to come in and ask for the highest healing of humility. We surrender the ego. We surrender all that we are into this now moment. And to know that over the next week and all throughout the week that we do our ascension videos, we're going to focus on the vulnerability to allow for the highest outcome for the greater good. That you're not going to wish yourself and you're not going to project yourself of winning in every situation because you're not learning to be your highest in every situation. So it's not really a good anticipation if you're always expecting yourself to win, because even when you have a loss, it can still be a win. So open up your mind and be vulnerable within how anything can work out, how it should work out based on how Source knows of you, is of you as spirit. Source knows you inside and out. So can you see that sometimes you're going to go on a detour and it's not going to be comfortable? Sometimes you're going to go on a detour and you're going to have to step outside your check boxes and your lists of what you thought you needed, but you don't anymore because you're now going into 5D. That when you're magnetized toward a beautiful soulmate, and on their other end of it, when they see a picture of you on the screen, that they just break down crying because there is such an emotional connection and a soul-filled connection, even though you might not have ever met before in this lifetime. But that your souls recognize and remember each other, and can't that be enough? And isn't it enough just to sit and lay next to each other in knowing that across all complexities and across all chances where this could have never ever happened or never ever occurred in the billions of people that are on this planet, isn't it just enough to know the magnitude and perfection and uniqueness and dynamicism that is Source Creator, Father God, the Mother God, that says it's time for you to be loved so unconditional that only this one person can ever be worthy of you? And God will ordain that perfect person that has been with you through so many soul experiences. And that person knows you better than any other person on this planet that could ever know you on any other planet. And this is what I want to say, and we're going to end this call at this. Humanity is at the most important and profound, most exciting, most enigmatic, most expansive, elastic, dynamic experience that humanity has ever been before. And each and every one of you, and every time you share this video, and every time this makes sense to you and it clicks to you at your soul and in your belly, and it shakes you to your core, we are the ones that have brought the planet this far, and we are in the same place at the same time to know that. We are the ground crew, and we are moving into new momentums of changing everything that humanity has ever known. And we're doing it from the excitement of authentically who we are within as God. We're going to create new healings. We're going to create new arts and entertainment where nobody will be abused and there will be no selling of any souls. Where the children will be lifted and heard every day. And each and every one of us, our stories of challenge and abuse, of discrimination and corruption are going to come forward and be the art of our tomorrow. And we're going to create new medical systems where everybody is given the medicines that they need, without the greediness of the pharmaceutical companies taking the way and having their multi-trillion-dollar companies as affiliates doing horrible things with trafficking. We're going to pave new ways, dear lighted ones, and we're going to cultivate it through being vulnerable of who we are as Source Creator. Let Source do the hard work. Let Source do the hard lifting. Ask Source to help you in alchemizing what needs to be alchemized so that you can surrender into you. And know that that one divine being that has known you and will be ordained with you through God. So ask for your ordained soulmate through Mother, Father, God. Mother, Father, God know that one soulmate that knows when they just see a picture of you, they love you so much that they just break into tears. That's how much you move them emotionally. And they move you. Because your souls know each other and you don't need a checklist. And cannot that be enough? You're going to give yourselves new outlines, dear lighted ones, new things to align to, and have it be as simple as possible because that's God. Have it be truthful and transparent, and have that be okay. Because the person that you're going to be the most vulnerable with has also been through the same practices that you were in, the same losses, even more so. And they're going to want to be vulnerable with you because those are the souls that have been brought together for this very special time. Because, here's the kicker, dear lighted ones, and may you go away with this and dream about it all day long. In each moment that you are vulnerable to allow Source bring the highest potential for each of you, you will reach a new state of unconditional love and soul expansiveness within yourself. It alters all creation, not just the galaxy, but all creation. And the Manatronic light codes have been forever changed and will be forever changed. And you've just enhanced life from the very smallest of insects in our water to the very largest aspects of life throughout our galaxy. By being vulnerable and trusting that love will always, always win. Even if at the moment it might not seem like a monetary win or a physical win or a bodily win, but it will be a win within creation when you choose to be vulnerable and loving and know that every moment is Source Creator. And you in this new navigational garden that is New Earth Star. And can that not be enough? Understand you do have an ordained partner that God is so happy to bring to you. So ask for it. You deserve it. You deserve to be loved like no other else can love you. And work with each other on your triggers. That's what you're here for. You're here to make each other better and lift each other up. Your soulmate will have something you won't, and you will have something your soulmate won't. So help each other, navigate compromise, navigate with fairness, and lift each other up as often as you can. And you're going to build good foundations. You're going to build great legacies. And you're going to be that place where years and years and eons down the road and galaxies that are being newly birthed right now, new star systems are being birthed right now for the new galaxies and new planets and new beings and new subspecies and new species from hybridization programs just like this. They're going to be talking about you, and they're going to be talking about how you came across this pivot point and you let go of the boxes and you let go of the corrupt systems of church and state, and you made new systems that were a bit more loving and a bit more unified because you trusted God. You trusted Source. You trusted the new way of being human and spirit and soul. There will always be the law of one, dear lighted ones. That is our foundation. There will always be quantum law. And we thank you, dear lighted ones. We have to go. We thank you, dear lights. We love you. Anybody that wants to book a session, or please, 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 please donate. Thank you. We love you. We love you. Bye. Vulnerability.